bitch so bad, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. I want you, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you.
What's up, everybody? My name's Mason Marquis. I'm with
Jackson Gamber.
This is episode 7 of the Sports Key podcast, Into the Future. In this episode, we're going to look into the future of the NBA, give our takes of the picks, and we also have some other takes we want to give you about players that are currently playing, not just in the NBA, but in other leagues around the world for all different sports.
Yep.
We're excited. We're trying out a new angle. Let us know what you think of it. But I think we're going to start just with the NBA draft. It was just last night.
Yeah.
A lot of picks we were expecting, some that we didn't think were the right picks. One that everyone agrees is the right pick, though, was the number 1 overall pick, Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs. No surprise. He was the consensus number 1 pick for the last year and a half. Everyone knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the right pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see anyone better than him in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say a player can't become better than him in the future from this draft class, but as it stands right now, hopefully he can stay healthy. But if he's able to stay healthy, I think he's a generational talent like no one we've ever seen before. Into the 2 pick. This one you didn't really love. I like it for the Hornets. Brandon Miller from Alabama. What's your thoughts? Do you think that they made the right pick? Do you think they should have gone to a different option there?
No, okay, so I'm not a Charlotte fan. I'm not a fan of the Hornets, like, at all. But I saw a video online, and it was a video of Brandon Miller being picked, and it turns to, like, all the Charlotte fans, and they're all just like, no, like, what just happened? You can hear people in the background yelling Scoot because they wanted him to pick Scoot Henderson, who should have been the number 2 pick, and I think that's a missed opportunity by the Hornets.
No, I definitely understand what you're saying there. And Scoot, he played in the G League, which is a lot of NBA-level talent. That's close as you can get to the NBA without being there, unless you're playing in other professional leagues. But I think that Brandon Miller is a player that has been proven to be a scorer from anywhere on the court. And he's so fast laterally. He can move up the court quicker than almost anyone out of this draft class. So pairing him with LaMelo Ball, I think that front court is going to be one of the best front courts in the league. You know, I feel like they might move Brandon Miller to the shooting guard position. And even if they have him at the small forward, I think he's going to be good enough for them to hopefully make a playoff push for the first time in a long time for them.
Yeah.
Now, at 3, Scoot Henderson was taken. I really like Scoot as a player. I feel like pairing him with Dame could be an elite duo. You know, Dame's getting up there in age, hasn't won a ring yet, has been to the playoffs so many times. Do you think that Scoot can help them make a playoff push this year, or do you think it's going to take him a couple years to get used to being in the league?
I can definitely see him helping with a playoff push, just solely because of how Scoot plays. He's more like a playmaker, but I can really just see them doing really well next season.
Yeah, I think that the way they could play together, you know, Dame being so ball dominant, and then Scoot being able to make those plays. If they give him the ball, he will always make the right pass to me. The only thing, though, is Dame was asked, you know, if he were to get traded, his top 3 destinations, and he said, obviously Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's kind of Dame saying that he wants out of this situation in Portland, or do you think he was just answering a question and wasn't trying to hide from the media and from the question he was given?
You know, I don't know 100% if he would want to move, because just solely based off of, like, just, you know, they got Scoot Henderson, and if, like, they're going to play around him and it's more focused around him, like Damian Lillard, I feel like he would like that, and he would like to, you know, be the center of attention, so I wouldn't see him moving if they, you know, build around him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, but I feel like if he's going to leave, this is the best time for Portland to trade him. His value's still at a high point, and he's getting up there in age, so how much longer can you hold on to him for? Try to go get a couple first-round picks if you're looking to trade him, and then build around Scoot, because I feel like he has the potential to be one of the best players in the league within the next 5 years. Moving on, though, to one of the brothers. Ahmed Thompson was taken at number 4, and then his brother was taken at number 5. This is the first time brothers were taken back to back. Do you think it's just cool? Do you really care about that, or
I mean,
what's your opinion on that?
It's definitely something to talk about. That it doesn't happen often, or has it happened ever? So I feel like they'll both do really well in the league, and it'll be cool to see, that little brother rivalry in the league.
Yeah, this is the first time since they were born that they're playing on opposite teams. They've always been together through rec league, high school, college. So I think it's really exciting to see. Do you think that, with their brotherly connection that they have, do you think that they're going to look to team up at any point during their careers, or do you think that they know that they're going to make the best decision for their career?
Hopefully they go with, whatever's good for their career, but maybe when they get older and, heading to the end of their career, maybe they want to run it out together just for the end, then I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, that's a situation that, for the parents, is absolutely amazing. I know we were watching the draft, and we didn't even get to see, 3 of the draft picks because they were talking to the parents of the brothers for so long. But it's just, that has to be such an emotional moment for the parents, driving hours to practices, to games.
Yeah.
Finally seeing all that hard work that the parents put in and the kids put in finally pay off for both of them has to be special. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, at number 5, the brother was taken. And then at number 6, Anthony Black from Arkansas was taken by the Orlando Magic. The Magic have so many point guards already. Do you think that they're kind of overfilled with point guards? They have 3 or 4 starting caliber point guards on their roster already. Do you think they'll try to make a trade, or do you think they're going to try to just keep on stacking them?
Hopefully they'll make a trade and, start looking towards the future, the 23-24 season.
Yeah, so speaking of the Orlando Magic for 1 second, Markelle Fultz, who was a Sixer at one point, had an interview, and he said, and I quote, "I wish the Sixers would have given me more time. I could help them win a championship." Do you think that's Markelle saying that he kind of would have come back at one point to Philadelphia? Do you think it's him just showing that he regret? Do you think he's saying that he kind of wants to come back, or do you think he's saying that he was just disappointed that they traded him?
I think it's more them just being him being just disappointed that they traded him because, he's.
I get where you're going.
Yeah,
that he's young, and he's a player that could help, but he just he had an injury early, and it kind of just derailed him for a year, almost 2 years. So I think that he's a player that could be really good, but even after he went to Orlando, he tore his ACL. He's had a few injuries, and now being on that roster, it's going to be really hard for him to try to find a starting role with how many point guards they have. And taking another point guard at the 6, with the 6th pick in the draft, that's a player that you want to be on your starting roster. So I think it's going to be tough for him to really find his way in the NBA now. But I'm hoping for the best because, even though he was only on the 6 for a couple years, he made an impact on the team when he was on the court and healthy. Moving on to number 7, another French player, Koulibaly, was taken. And this is also the first time that there were 2 top 10 picks from France taken in Koulibaly and, of course, Wembanyama. More and more throughout the last 15 years in the NBA, you're seeing international players coming into the NBA. Do you think that's good for the NBA? Do you think it's bad for the college players? What do you think of this?
I really think it's good for the NBA solely because given in conversation when people discuss, say, the hardest sport, you can put basketball in there because it isn't just filled with Americans and only American talent. It's filled with talent from all across the world now, like France, Syria, Serbia.
Yeah, they say that they want to be the best basketball league in the world, and by bringing in the players from international countries, I think that's the best way to do it. And I think it just brings more attention to your game as well, to your sport. So the game just keeps on growing every year. You see that. Every country's getting closer and closer to the United States when it comes to international play. So I think it's really good for the league as a whole. And then Indiana Pacers at the 8, they take Walker. He was a power forward. I don't love the pick for the Pacers there. I think that this is a time for them to honestly trade back in the draft, maybe get another first and a second round pick, because I just feel like the way their roster's built, they're not one player away from making a playoff push, but they're also good enough that next year they won't end up in the lottery and have a good draft pick. So they're in a tough spot. For where they're at, I like the pick, but I don't like the fact that they even made the pick. I think they should have traded it away. But he's a player that is really strong, will get to the basket, and he's going to give you 15 points maybe a game. But his rebounds is what really brings him in. He's going to average probably 10 to 11 rebounds a game for his career, which is really valuable because that's an extra 10 to 15 points for your team every night. And then the draft, I think a lot of these everyone knew was coming. Taylor Hendricks going at number 9. And then Oklahoma, they took Carson Wallace. The Magic, again, at number 11, taking a shooting guard, which in college he also played a little bit of point guard, which just adds to that depth. I feel like they're just adding too much at this point. Maybe they know something we don't, but their playoff record tells us otherwise.
I mean, how much depth is too much depth?
Most of their roster is taken up by point guards, which you don't have enough depth at other positions. And I just feel like with the players they have, they have Cole Anthony. They just drafted 2 guys that can play the point guard. They have Markelle Fultz. They have another guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. That's like 4 or 5 guys that can play the point guard for them, which it's good to have that depth, but you also want them to be able to play other positions because you're going to get position stacked and not have a backup center or not have a backup power forward. So I hope it works out for them, but I can't see it. I can't see it working this year. I think they definitely have to make some trades. The Mavericks go out and get a center, Derek Lively from Duke. He played really well this season for Duke, but he didn't do anything special for me. He's one of those players that's very fundamental and isn't very flashy, so people are going to be a little bored with him, but I think he's going to make a big impact for that team. And then at 13, Bradley Dick is taken from Kansas. Same college Embiid went to. They have a great program. They're able to build players. They have a lot of players that went through that school and have become perennial freak. All-stars. Sorry about that.
I really like this guy. How do you say his name?
Grady Dick.
Grady Dick. Not just because of his name, just because of Did you see the outfit he wore to the NBA draft?
I did not.
It was like this red, like sparkly, like suit, and it had like shoulder pads. And he was talking about how he wants Drake to have his jersey. It was pretty funny.
I feel like I would hate Drake wearing my jersey. The Drake curse is still alive and in full effect. So if I were him, I would not want Drake anywhere near me. At number 15, Kobe Bufflin was taken from Michigan. A cool story about him, he was actually named after Kobe Bryant. And his parents say that he hopes that throughout his career he can honestly make Kobe's legacy live on. Which, I feel like within the next few years we're going to see a lot of players with that name. Because Kobe was just such a great player and made such a big impact on people off the court as well. I feel like we're going to see that name a lot, and I feel like it's pretty cool to see that name. So his heart and his game lives on. The Jazz then took I don't know how to pronounce this perfectly.
Keontae?
Is it Keontae?
think
Keontae
so.
George from Baylor.
Ooh. Trying to say his name.
The Lakers then take a point guard from Indiana, Jalen Hood. I'm not gonna try the. I'm not gonna try the second part.
We'll leave it at that.
Now the Heat go out and get some depth at the shooting guard here. I think for the Heat that this is a really good pick for them. CBS Sports only gave this pick a B, but I think that it's because this is a player that's not going to be a starter for them, but is going to come off the bench and is going to make an impact. Throughout college, he was a high energy guy that would come onto the court and just immediately score points, immediately make a big impact. And I feel like that's what Miami was really lacking in the finals. The second the starters would come out of the game, it just felt like the ball went dead. So I feel like having this guy come on, he's kind of like a Tyrese Maxey who will get the ball, go to the bucket, and he's going to make big impact plays. Even if it's only 10 points a game, he's going to do a really good job for them, I think. And then Golden State drafts Brandon Podziemski from Santa Clara.
That was good.
I try. Now, with the Warriors here, another shooting guard, they now have Steph Curry, Chris Paul, and Brandon Podziemski.
Yeah.
I had it the first time, and they have Brandon.
Podziemski, I guess.
We're seeing some cool names tonight.
Yeah. Don't forget Klay Thompson.
Yeah. Well, Clay is definitely a little bit slower now.
Yeah, getting.
So I think this is a good pick for them because when that second unit comes in, Chris Paul is probably going to be coming off the bench. So when Clay gets subbed out, this is a guy that can really shoot the ball. Not as good as Clay, but he can shoot at a high volume. He can move up the court a little bit quicker. He can dribble the ball a little bit better. So I think he is going to give them a lot of depth there. Mm-hmm. And I think playing along Chris Paul is really going to help this kid progress into the league and probably become a starter elsewhere at one point in his career. And then Houston again has their second pick. They take Cam Whitmore out of Villanova, my personal favorite college. We missed the tournament this year. After Jay Wright retired, we kind of fell off a little bit for a year, but hopefully we bounce back. From the games I watched, this guy Cam, he can jump out of the stadium. He crashes the boards like nobody else. He's going to average a lot of rebounds, and he's going to probably get in a lot of fights because he plays hard. Moving on from the Nets took Noah Clowney. How did I mess that up? That's embarrassing.
I don't know.
From Alabama. We've seen a few Alabama players taken at this point. They're building a really good program there, and the coaches they have are great. So I think that every year we're going to see more and more Alabama players taken because they are truly building a great program and progressing players a ton. When this guy came into Alabama, he wasn't really expected to go in the first round. He was expected to be a second-round pick. But he came out, and that Alabama coaching staff really made him into a great shooter. And I think that he can only get better while in the NBA. And I think we're going to see him shoot a very high volume of threes, and I think he's going to hit a lot of them. So I think that's a good pick for Houston. Not for Houston, for the Nets, as they definitely were lacking in shooting a little bit this year. Portland now. Whoa, did Brooklyn have back-to-back picks?
It looks like.
Or am I reading it wrong?
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
21
Sorry
and
about
22.
That. At 22, at the 22nd pick.
Derek
Whitehead from Duke. This pick, I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about the guy. I ain't see him play much. I only watched a few Duke games. So I don't want to comment on his play too much.
It's funny because it says that he was, like, right here it says New Jersey.
Huh. It does say that. We are reading all these picks. We couldn't remember them all.
Yeah.
I think it's obvious for you guys that we're reading it.
To be able to remember each pick it
would be really impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not going to comment on this pick too much because I don't know enough.
Yeah.
But through the websites we looked at, through other people's rankings, this pick was rated an A minus, anywhere from a B to an A minus. So I think it's a good pick. And then the Trailblazers took Chris Murray from Iowa. Again, really from 20 down, they're all good picks, I'd say, but nothing that really nothing that's gonna blow you away first year.
Yeah.
I think this draft class has a lot of depth, like players that are gonna be good players. But I think that the top 5 picks, top 10 picks that we talked about are going to be the players that you really want to keep an eye on their entire career.
Like Scoot.
I'd say more Victor, but Scoot's good too, I guess. So, yeah, we don't want to comment too much on the rest of the draft because a lot of these players are just going to be players that if they don't play for your team, you're not going to think about them every day.
Yeah.
Now, that was pretty much our take on the draft. You heard Jack say that he thought that Scoot should have gone number 2. I said that I think that Scoot at 3 was a good pick, especially for the Blazers' future if they want to keep Dame around, and even if they want to get rid of Dame.
I think Charlotte definitely messed up on that one, though.
We're going to see this year. So, if you guys have any questions about the draft, we're going to leave a link to the entire draft order in the description just so you guys can look straight at that.
Yeah.
Or you can comment any questions and we'll make sure to reply to you guys. Now we're going to get into some transfer news and some takes on FIFA football.
Okay, so let's talk about the first big one that happened more recently today. Sergio Busquets joins Inter Miami, which means Messi and Sergio Busquets will be,
Together again.
They'll be together again, and this is another big move for the MLS. A huge name with Busquets. He's one of the best center defensive midfielders, and just a world-class player coming in. A little bit older, but it doesn't really matter to the sense of the name, because I feel like, him playing with Messi, it'll really boost Inter Miami and Messi's impact on the club overall. But
do you know how long of a deal this is for? Does it say any of the sources you've seen?
No.
See, my only concern is, like you said, he's an older player. Although he's still extremely good right now, next year or even 2 years from now, is he still going to be the same player? And for Inter Miami, they're already so far behind in the standings right now. We're halfway through the season already. It's almost impossible for them to make a playoff push. I don't know.
It would be hard, yeah.
They would have to pretty much win
very,
out.
very bottom.
They would have to pretty much win out to make the playoffs. So I do like the signing if he's able to stay healthy and be the same player for the next couple of years. I feel like him and Messi together again is going to be really good. For this season, I'm hoping for next season that they're able to both play the same way.
I'm going to talk about these 3 in one.
Mm-hmm.
We have Edu Mendy, Hakeem Ziyech, and Koulibaly from Chelsea. All go to 3 different Saudi Arabian clubs. The Saudi Arabian teams are really just racking up the signings and continuing to prove us wrong in our take that the Saudi Arabian League won't be able to grow and be top 5 leagues like Ronaldo said. We both said we just can't see it happening. But if they keep continuing signings like this, as well as Ruben Neves, I can definitely see them, really gaining popularity in the future.
Yeah, I can see them bringing in the viewership now. I can say that I was wrong. I didn't think they'd get this many players this fast. But what I will say is the players they're getting, I feel like they're overpaying for. And I think you and I can both agree on that.
Yeah, 100%.
My thing is this the players actually wanting to play in the Saudi Arabian League? Or is this them wanting the money? Because we saw with Live Golf, a lot of players were signing with Live Golf, which is a Saudi Arabian golf league, instead of playing on the PGA Tour. and they were getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars for doing this, even though the competition isn't nearly as good, and they were playing in the PGA before. I feel like this is a very similar situation where they're just taking the money over the game at this point. And I don't know if I agree with it, but it's working for the Saudi Arabian League.
Yeah. So 2 huge transfers happened just this past week, and my personal favorite was Sandro Tonali to Newcastle. Now, that is, in my opinion, just an amazing signing from Newcastle. They're the richest team in the world. They have the most money, and spending it on players not over expensive, $70 million fee. It's a good deal for Tonali. He's a really good player, a really good center defensive mid, and I think that he really just brings that style that Newcastle are missing with people in their midfield, and I can really see this being a huge signing for them, and I think he'll definitely do good things at the club.
Yeah, and I like what you said, how they're how they were the richest club, and they're still not overpaying for players, and that's how you not only become the richest club, but stay the richest club, is not spending too much on players that are gonna disappoint. Now they're building a lot of depth, and they're not overpaying, and they're still getting really quality pieces for the amount they're spending. I think that they are really proving that the Chelsea way probably isn't the right way, and I think that Newcastle's doing it the right way now.
Yeah, Chelsea letting go of a lot of players. Another one, we saw Kovacic go to Man City. I think that's a decent signing with the release of another signing that we're going to talk about in a second. Kovacic is a really good box-to-box midfielder, and I think he'll fit Man City's style of play, but not as good as the person they let go, Ilkay Gundogan. He was just phenomenal this season. Scored some really nice goals and just did really good things in the FA Cup and the Champions League. And he went to Barcelona and as a free agent, so didn't have to pay anything.
A dime.
So, yeah, I think he'll definitely do good at Barcelona. He's getting older, so he's reaching the end of his career. The signing is until 2025. There's a release clause on him worth $500 million, which means that if anybody wants to just take him just like that, they can, which that's something that Saudi Arabia probably could snatch up on, but
I don't think $500 million is gonna do.
A little bit much.
My only thing is why I don't think there's a club in the world that would ever pay $500 million to get him, and that's not a disrespect to him at all, because he is a fantastic player. But $500 million, come on, no one's gonna do that. Do you think that in negotiations he was like, I want a release clause in it? Or the team wanted a release clause in it, and he was like, no, and they were like, what if we just put it at $500 million?
I think it's more.
They both get what they want, but no one really. They both know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something like that, but not the team. It's more his manager.
Okay.
Or agent rather.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
So there's 2 more signings I want to talk about. And that is Nicholas Jackson. He officially went to Chelsea. We were talking about that last week in last week's episode. And I think this is a really good signing for Chelsea, especially with them getting rid of a lot of players right now. I think it's like 6 or 7. I think he'll be a good striker for them, especially since it doesn't look like João Felix is going to stay from his loan. I think Chelsea, as much as it hurts me to say this, I think Chelsea need to start with some bigger signings. I know they just got so many people. They also have Christopher Nkunku coming in, who I don't know how these two
I
are
think they're
going
going to play pretty well together.
hand in hand, but hopefully they will play pretty good together. Chelsea, feel like they should focus more on midfielders right now. It looks like they're going to get rid of Mason Mount. They just got rid of Kovacic. They're missing a huge piece in that defense in their more central area with Koulibaly gone. And they still have Kepa in goal, so there's nothing really to worry about with Mendy. And Ziyech, he really didn't play anyway.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you something while we were
Not
talking
really a
about
big
Chelsea. I know that this isn't something that's likely to happen. I don't think there's even been any talks about it. But off camera, you and I have talked about it a lot. Us wanting Pulisic to leave Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
With the players that have already left, that you said that they lost 6 players already, and they haven't brought in a ton. Do you think Pulisic is going to have a bigger role in the offense or on the team? Or do you think that he's still not really going to be given the opportunity we both think he deserves?
Okay, so with their new manager coming in, Pochettino, he's just a great manager. As much as I hate to say it, he did great things with Tottenham, took them to the Champions League final. I think he really should get the good out of Pulisic. I feel like if he plays him, he would understand that he is a top player and deserves playing time. And if not, then I can see Pulisic either making a move towards the Italian league.
Okay. I would like to see that. I want Pulisic to play in a place that he does get playing time.
Mm-hmm.
More because I want him to play well for Team USA.
Yeah.
And, sitting the bench and just warming up and just going to training isn't going to help him become a better player. You have to get those in-game reps.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a selfish reason for me to want him to go to a different team. But I do want to see him succeed, and I don't think that him sitting on the bench is going to do him any good.
Last transfer I want to talk about is Rafael Guerrero. He played for Dortmund for 7 years, right? And now, all of a sudden, he's joining their team rivals, Bayern Munich. A lot of people don't like this. A lot of people just are kind of mad at him.
Calling him a snake and a rat.
Yeah. What do you think of this?
He's been there for 7 years. I think sometimes in life you just need a change of scenery. He's not the same player he was 7 years ago when he first signed for them. He's probably not the same person mentally or physically, and he's probably ready to, start towards the end of his career at this point. Did he pick the right team to go to for himself is the question. I'm not a fan of the Bundesliga as much as others, so it's not really a big deal to me. But I understand the frustration with the fans. But if he thinks it's the right decision for himself, then I think that he did the right thing. But if I was a big fan, I'd be really mad because I've seen some of our players from the Eagles, from the Phillies go to rivals, and it makes me mad. But
it's like
for me, I can't really comment on it too much because I don't really know the history.
It's like Sol Campbell when he said he was interviewed by an interviewer. He played at Tottenham. He was interviewed by an interviewer. She said, "With your current situation right now, will you be staying at Tottenham?" And he goes, "I will be staying." The next press of him was him joining Arsenal.
Yeah, I remember it was probably only a couple months ago, Thierry Henry was doing an interview, and they asked him if Arsenal's biggest rival offered you triple what you were getting paid at Arsenal, would you have ever left to go play for Tottenham? And he said never.
Yeah, he's a very stern person.
And then the people that were with him, the other football pundits, they were like, "Oh, I would have left in a heartbeat." And I think that shows like
just
how different players are.
Mentalities.
And I think it shows the difference between loving the game and loving the sport and loving
money.
and just doing it for a job,
Mm.
which you can't blame either person,
Yeah.
because I think at the end of the day, they is what they do for their job, so you can't be mad at them if they leave, but you also can't be mad at them if they don't take the money.
Exactly. One more thing about transfers. I know I said that was the last thing, but I want to ask you a question. Arsenal just submit a bid today for Declan Rice, another one.
Ooh.
It was valued at a little over 100 million.
It's a pretty penny.
At this point, is that now overpriced?
Well, I think that we knew we were going to have to spend that. When you and I first talked about this over a month ago at this point, or at least a few weeks ago, you told me it's going to take at least 90 million. And then when that was rejected, we knew it was going to be closer to 100 to 110 million.
Yeah.
I think that you have to ask yourself as an Arsenal fan, and the Arsenal owners have to ask themselves, is Declan Rice going to help us go from number 2 in the table to number 1? And is he going to help us win the Champions League, or at least make it to the Champions League final,
Yeah.
or the FA Cup final? And if you can tell yourself he's going to help our team, then I think that it's not overpaying. But if you're saying that you think that you'll still finish second, or you're not going to make the finals, then it's probably not the right. Then it's probably overpaying. So, do you think that he can help Arsenal go from number 2 to number 1 in the table next season, or within the next 2 seasons?
100%. And I want to say because he would then be the replacement for Granit Xhaka, who will probably leave to Bayern Leverkusen after playing at Arsenal for God knows how long. He used to play back when Arsene Wenger was still the manager. Just compared to Declan Rice, compared to Granit Xhaka, is a huge difference. Declan Rice is very just a completely different player in my opinion. They play the same position, but they play with different styles, and just Declan Rice is very he's younger, but still in my opinion has more experience. I don't know if that makes sense.
Younger but more mature as a player.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, Granit Xhaka matured so much more over this season, and I absolutely loved him this season. He played just amazing, but looking at Declan Rice, he's a world-class player, always starts for England. It's just someone who I would really want on the team, and definitely could make an impact on Arsenal in their future.
So the way you're talking about it makes it seem like it's not overpaying. If you can say to yourself that he's going to help you move up the table, then you're not overpaying. If you're already at number...
Not even any amount.
I mean, as an owner, the best thing you can do is win your league, or win the Champions League, or win the FA Cup. And if you get that done, you already get a bonus of well over 100 mil.
Mm-hmm.
We finished second, and finishing second got us a big bonus as well. So if you can, if you know this player is going to help you get better, you're going to get that bonus, which is already going to help pay back. You're going to sell more seats, which is going to help you make that money back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's overpaying if it's going to help you go from top 5 in the table to top 2, and then if you're number 2, it's going to help you get to number 1. I think it's definitely worth it. Is there any other transfer news you want to talk about?
Nope, that's it.
I think it's a good time for us to jump into the takes that you have put out for us. Jack spent a lot of time making, some takes that he has.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have him ask me some because, I didn't prepare for this whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I usually let Jack do all the work.
So, okay. So, some of these takes, I just want to say these are not my takes, so don't come at me. Don't come at me. As we saw in the comments of our TikTok.
Yeah, check out our TikTok. Our most recent episode, Jack posted his take on
Luka Modric.
on Modric, saying he's one of the best center mids of all time, and people were not too happy with him. So, if you want to check that out, if you want to keep going at Jack, I ain't say nothing.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a random one from here.
Okay.
Will Giannis be top 20 before retirement? Why or why not?
Top 20 all time?
Yep.
I'm going to say yes, he will be.
Okay.
I think he's already solidified himself as one of the best international players of all time, coming from Greece, and I think that's something that people will take into account. Thinking about international players, I think that he's definitely one of the best international players of all time, if not the best. He has a couple MVPs. He has the championship. He brought the Milwaukee their first championship in like 20 years or something. And I think even this year, he finished in top 3 MVP voting, which he has the last 4 or 5 years. I think if he plays another 2 or 3 years the way he has, I think he genuinely has a chance to be top 10, maybe even top 10, top 15 at worst to me if he plays the way he has been for 2 or 3 more years, and hopefully brings home another championship to Milwaukee or brings home another MVP.
Now, do you think his career ends after those 2 or 3 years?
No, definitely not. His career won't end. But if he plays at the same level he has been,
He'll already have solidified it?
He'll already have solidified it. I think if he brings home one more championship to Milwaukee, or if he wins one more MVP, he's in my top 20. And maybe that's recency bias. I'm only 19, so I haven't seen all these players play for. I didn't get to see Michael Jordan play. I didn't get to see AI play his full career.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really comment completely, but from what I've seen, he's one of the best players I've ever watched.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. The 1992 USA Olympic basketball team was the greatest team of all
yes,
time.
100%. The Dream Team is the best team ever assembled. It all started the Olympic before because, America always sent, or really every country always just sent their amateur players. We always would send college players to the Olympics, and then we show up to the Olympics one year and there's all these professionals from other countries, and we get obliterated. And then America says, F it. We bring in Jordan. We bring in Bird. We just absolutely dominate. And the Dream Team is easily the best team ever assembled. It's like the Avengers on steroids, and to me. I think that there's just no comparing it in any other sport even.
Okay. I like that take. I like it. Here is a more controversial one. Has added technology and rules hurt sports or better sports?
See, this is tough for me because I think in a lot of ways it has helped sports, but in a lot of ways it's also hurt. For example, in soccer, to me, obviously you want to call a player offsides if they're offsides.
Yes.
But if you and I are making a run at the same time and I am running like this and my arm goes out, they'll go to VAR and call me offsides for my arm being 3 inches past your foot. Which I think, I don't have a clear advantage at that point. I'm making a better run.
Arms can't be offsides.
Okay, then my toe is 3 inches past your foot. Same thing. I just think something like that, if they don't call it offsides at first and they have to go to VAR to check that, I don't have a clear advantage. Offsides is made so that I can't just be sitting on the other end and they just pass it down to me right away. So I think in a way like that, it doesn't benefit the sport. If anything, I think it makes it less exciting. But in baseball, if I'm going to steal second, I slide in, and then they call me out, they check, and you didn't tag me out. I think that is a good time to have it. So I can't really say that it's good or bad because I think that it really just depends on situation to situation.
Gotcha. All right, I want you to give me 3.
Give you 3?
Any of them.
Wow. I see some good ones on here. No, I'm gonna give you this one because I think this one you might like this one.
Okay.
Wembanyama will be the second best player in this draft class, behind Scoot Henderson. Now you said that these aren't your takes and you found these. I have a feeling you typed this one in.
No, I definitely didn't.
I have a feeling you typed this one in, but...
And I know who typed that one in, and I'll tell you off camera.
Okay, let me hear it. Let me hear your opinion.
Okay, so obviously, Wembanyama is extremely hyped, and, so many people just see this kid coming into the league and absolutely dominating and absolutely, just being, like, he's been one of the most hyped players in a really, really long time, maybe even dating all the way back to, like, LeBron.
Yeah.
Now, Scoot Henderson is just an explosive playmaker who can just change things in a team, in my opinion, can change things in a team just like that. I think maybe I'll give this one to Wembanyama solely because of the hype and, the stats and, the videos, like everything.
And the talent.
Yeah, and the talent. It just speaks for itself. But I think there's different aspects that Scoot Henderson takes Wembanyama on.
Yeah, I think that his Scoot's playmaking ability is much better than Wembanyama's, but I think Wembanyama is the better player by a far stretch at this point. And I think that, listen, the only way Scoot becomes a better player all time, in my opinion, is if Wembanyama gets hurt. And I hope he doesn't, because I hope we can watch him play for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I can't see Scoot being a better player all time unless something like that were to happen.
Okay.
Now I'm going to give you this one, because I have a feeling you typed this one in as well.
Okay.
All-time center mid, Iniesta or Luka Modric.
Okay, so this is hard.
And this is what he was getting so much hate for in the comments on our TikTok.
So a lot of people said, brung up the fact that Iniesta and...
Move my cup down.
And is, like, very, like, above Modric, which I think that's crazy statement. Iniesta or Modric is a really tough commute. Now, you look at the achievements of Iniesta. You have someone who has won trophies, one of them being the World Cup, and he scored the game-winning goal in dying seconds of the game in the World Cup final. You also then you look at the other side and you look at Modric, who he's a loyal player, and he's stayed at Real Madrid forever since he was young.
He won a Ballon d'Or.
He won a Ballon d'Or, yeah, which is Player of the Year. Like, not many people besides Ronaldo, Messi, in the past couple years, like in this timeline, can say they've won a Ballon d'Or. But he won that in between their timeline, and where Messi and Ronaldo were still, really good players. And I just can't put Iniesta over Modric, and I have to say Modric.
This is gonna show my knowledge on European football. Is there one Ballon d'Or for all of FIFA? Like all of the FIFA leagues?
Every single player in the world in all
and there's only one Ballon d'Or a year.
There's one Ballon d'Or a year.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was every league gets their own Ballon d'Ors. Yeah, that's impressive.
Exactly.
I don't know. The viewers on our TikTok didn't seem to agree with you. But I'll ask you one more, and then it'll go back to me. Mm-hmm. You asked me this one when I was at your house. I didn't know that this is what it was for, but you asked me.
Okay.
Shohei Ohtani is the most talented baseball player of all time. Do you agree?
I'm going to say no. Solely because, like, don't get me wrong, he could definitely be placed in a top 10, top 20 list, but saying that he is one of the most talented players of all, or the most talented player of all time, is a huge stretch. I feel like I could put someone like Bryce Harper over Ohtani, like he is a pitcher, so it is different.
Yeah, I think the
But
thing.
I think
I'm
Otani.
sorry.
It's alright. I definitely think Otani is definitely in that category, but I don't think he's the best.
Yeah, I think the thing with Otani is I would call him the most versatile player of all time. I'd call him the most dominant player of all time already, which I think still might be a stretch. But, I think the most talented is way too much of a stretch at this point. He's only been in the MLB for 3 years now, 4 years. It might be longer than that. I feel like time is flying by, but he hasn't been in the league for that long.
Yeah.
Calling him the most talented of all time is way too much of a stretch for me. Most dominant, though, it's a little closer. Most versatile, I'd say he is, for sure.
Okay. Let's go to let's stay on the track of baseball. Phillies to have a playoff push after the month of June.
I did see this one. I was hoping that you would ask me, so I'm glad you did. I'm very passionate about the Phillies. You know that.
Yeah. As am I.
I think I'm a little more passionate.
Yeah, definitely.
Just messing with you. But this is tough for me because Schwarber has owned June for the past 3 years, but you can see him every game. It feels like he's even worse in the field. With Harper not being able to play in the field at all this year, you don't want to put Schwarber out in the field, but you also can't put Harper out in the field. Only one of them can DH. Making a playoff push, I think, is going to happen. I think we're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think we're going to return to the World Series.
Whoa.
Hurts. I know it hurts, but I just don't think with the way the team is playing right now, we're good enough to make a World Series. That's not to say that we can't get better. It's not to say that Schwarber can't, get a little bit more of a pep in his step out in the field or play a better position or play the position better. We could throw him at first base, maybe try that out, and Clemens is a little bit more of an athlete. Maybe put him out and have him try to catch some pop flies. So I think that there are options we can do, but with the way the team is positioned right now and stands right now, I don't think we're good enough to make a World Series run right now. But I think we are good enough to make a playoff push, and I think we will do that.
So you said that we're not good enough for the World Series. What's missing?
I think just defense. Defense is missing. But more importantly, there is one player missing.
Rhys
Hoskins. I think he's just the most impact player we have. And it's weird that I'm saying defense is missing, and then I say Rhys is missing, because Rhys, truthfully, is one of the lower level defensive first basemen, but he is such an energy guy. We talked about Tyrese Maxey being an energy guy earlier. We talked about some of the new draft prospects being big energy guys, and you don't really see that a lot in the MLB because it's so hard to make that big energy play unless you hit a home run. But Rhys, you see in those big moments time and time again, do that for this team. If you ask the players on the team, they tell you that Rhys is the heart and soul of the team. He might not be the most talented player on the team, but he is their captain, and every player agrees to that. So I think that, having Rhys back in the locker room is going to help us make that push. And I think, we could see a situation like we saw with Schwarber when he was in Chicago. He tore his ACL and then made a comeback and played in Game 1 of the World Series and hit a home run in Game 1 of the World Series. If the Phillies are able to do something like that and Rhys is able to get back for the playoffs, I think then and only then we have a good chance to make a World Series run.
Gotcha. All right. I have another one here. It is Luka Doncic. I'm going to up this number just because I feel like it's a little high. Luka Doncic, future top 30 of all time.
Top 30 of all time? See, I'm going to say no. And that's not to say he doesn't have the talent to be. But when I think about best players of all time, one of the reasons people say Jordan was is the best player of all time, or top 2, and he's not number 2, is one of the million reasons is he has 6 championships. And, Luka's still young, but we haven't even seen him make the finals yet. And when he gets deep into the playoffs, we've seen him get absolutely destroyed. In order for him to have a chance to be top 30, I think that he has to figure out how to make longer playoff runs, win a couple championships. Same thing that I said with Giannis. He has to win at least one or two championships to be considered that top 20, top 30 player of all time. And also, he doesn't have an MVP yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't played with anyone amazing other than Kyrie. Kyrie has been his best teammate so far, and they just didn't mesh well. So I think it's definitely going to take a lot of work for him to be considered top 30. Right now, I'm going to say no, but that's not to say it can't change. If he's able to win a couple championships and win an MVP, at least one, then my opinion could change. But as of now, no for me.
Okay, staying with basketball, GOAT take, Jordan or LeBron?
You did hear me just say this a second ago.
I just want to know your reasoning.
Jordan's top 2, and he's not number 2. And, I said he has those 6 championships, but he does something different than LeBron. LeBron has led his team in scoring, led his team in assists, led his team in rebounds, led his team in blocks for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But Jordan has done that for the entire league. There was a year that Jordan averaged the most assists. There was a year that Jordan averaged the most points. There was a year that Jordan averaged the most rebounds for the entire league. And at a shooting guard position, that's extremely difficult, getting those rebounds. He might not have led the league in rebounds. He might have been
Yeah.
He might have been number 2 or number 3. But for his position, I know he led the league in rebounds. He retired and then came back and won another 3 championships. And, people always use this argument that, he won those championships, but he only went to 6, where LeBron has gone to, feels like 13 or 14 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think winning on the biggest stage is the most important thing to me. I said that with Giannis, and I said that with Luka a minute ago. I think that having a 6-0 career record in the finals is one of the most impressive things. And then I'd say this. When I think about Michael Jordan, people always think about the shot that he hit against the Jazz, that little jab step back shot to win the game. But when I think about him, I think about the when they were in the huddle, and he said, "Pass the ball to Steve Kerr," and Kerr hit the 3 to win the game. That is true leadership, and I don't know if LeBron would ever say, "Pass the ball to the other guy."
Mm-hmm.
And some people might say that that's Jordan not being ready for the moment, but I think that's Jordan being the better teammate and knowing that he's going to be double covered and getting the ball to an open guy. So I think that's why I'm saying Jordan's my top guy. Not today, but all time.
Okay. All right.
Back to me.
Back to you. Last 3, and then we're going to wrap up this episode.
All right. This one I think is going to be really good. And I think we're probably going to have a difference of opinion on this one. Who was more deserving of the World Cup, Messi or Mbappe?
Wow. Okay. That's a really hard one. So, throughout the World Cup, Mbappe had a great performance, and then in the end, he had a hat trick, which I think he was only the second person or third person to do that. And then you also have Messi, on the other hand, who led his team at age 35 to a World Cup. It's not easy to do. You're out of your prime. You're not the player you were when you were 25, 26, or even in your beginning years, 21, 22. I just think it's more deserving to Messi solely because of his age and solely because of his career, and that really solidified him as the GOAT for me, and which it put him more above Ronaldo as he already was.
Okay. See, I think that strictly off of the way they played in that tournament, just skill-wise, I think Mbappe was more deserving. But I think the storyline for for Argentina and for Messi was just so much better. I'm glad they won it in the end,
Mhm.
but I think that the way Mbappe played was absolutely solidified him as the best player in the world currently. And I know that's a strong
Whoa.
take. I know that's a strong take. You know, we're doing takes right now, but I think, yeah, that's my take right now. Mbappe is the best player in the world right now.
Okay, I feel like I can definitely agree with you on that.
Um,
one. As a Man City hater, I can definitely agree with that one.
So, then, here we go. I'm trying to think of the best ones to ask. We have a few extra ones that we could always talk about like next week or other week. All right, we're gonna jump back to Philadelphia. These last two are both gonna be about the Super Bowl. Who was more deserving of this year's Super Bowl? The Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, or Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs?
This is hard. Now, as an Eagle, Jalen Hurts had just one of the. He's one of the best players, if not the best player we have. And he put in a performance of just a lifetime in the Super Bowl, did as much as he physically could. And, you know, there's nothing else really to ask for. It really wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't really his fault. I think he was perfect on the day. Maybe one or two mistakes, but perfect on the day. Patrick Mahomes he was good, but he also had, you know, people like Travis Kelce who are constantly, you know, making those
dog.
runs. Yeah, exactly. He also had those people. I think when time came, I don't think that the Eagles' just offensive line just really came through for them. Unfortunately, as an Eagles fan, I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes deserved it more.
Yeah, the way they came out in the second half is something straight out of a movie.
Him
You know,
being injured too.
yeah, that's what I mean. You know, he was
Yeah.
he was limping off the field leaving the second quarter, going to halftime, and then came out as an absolute animal. And it hurt me to see that. You know, knowing that you're this close, and you know, I never cheer for injuries, but knowing that the guy is this close to being out of the game, I wish we could have hit him just a little bit harder and had Heineke come in or something, but not Heineke, Chad Henne come in. You know, but looking at it from an outside perspective, he's one of the most talented players in the league as is, and that performance was inspirational. So, speaking of the Super Bowl, for this upcoming year, the Eagles will go back to the Super Bowl, and they will win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That's my take. Agree or disagree?
You know, I'm gonna agree with you on this one. Just because, you know, right now there's sort of, I guess you could say, a Philly curse. Philly's teams come back from this finals run, and after losing the finals and don't do good, we saw it with the Union. We saw it with
The Phillies.
the Phillies. I feel like Eagles hopefully will be different. I'm not saying that because I just only want it to be different. I'm saying that because
I feel like we did a lot to improve this year.
yeah, exactly. And I think just the way that we dominated last season, it's just not something, you know, that is just gotten rid of just like that. But
Yeah, I
agree. The way Union played, you know, they dominated, but they weren't, you know, the best. They weren't, like, they were up there, but they weren't constantly winning games and everything. And the same thing with the Phillies. They were up there, but they, you know, they weren't.
I think that just the way the team is built, we got better, a lot better this offseason.
Yeah.
And I'm really hopeful for this year.
Yeah.
I've never been to an Eagles game. I'm hoping to go to one this year. You know, have to drop a couple $1,000s on it, but it's worth it to me at this point. You know, I'm 19. I got to start living life at one point.
Yeah.
So, I think that we're gonna have a good chance to go back. And I'm really excited to see what happens.
Can you ask me one more take on either the one that you deleted or or the one about about soccer?
All right.
The other two that are right next to each
You know what?
other.
I'm gonna ask you both of these at the same time then.
Okay.
So Newcastle,
Mhm.
we talked about a couple of their signings. Do you think they will finish top 2 in the league?
Mhm.
You know, you have Arsenal, who got better this year in my opinion, and you have Man City, who already finished number 1, is one of the most talented clubs in the world. Do you think Newcastle will be able to overcome either of those teams, and if so, which one?
I don't want to say this as a Gooner, as an Arsenal fan, but I think it'll be Arsenal. I really see this Newcastle team just completely changing for the better, and can honestly, with people like now Tonali, as we said before, Alexander Isak, who is insane, just great striker. Their transfer window's not done. They can keep getting signings. They could get more signings in January, and they just have completely just look like they could get even better with Eddie Howe and how he improved Newcastle. Now they'll be in Champions League. I can see them getting to either third or second. And I know it's bold with Liverpool making the Alexis McAllister signing and changing some things up over there. You have Man United also looking to sign people like Mason Mount
Now
to
this
impact them. But I really just feel like Newcastle
they can do it. You think?
they could almost even finish second.
Okay. Now this is an extremely hot take.
Mhm.
One that I said back in episode 2, and I don't know if I take my own take anymore. I think I might get rid of that one. I said that Chelsea will finish top 4 in the Premier League next season. Do you believe that they can do it? No. Plain as day.
Plain
Now,
as
I
day.
said this before they lost 6 of their players,
Yeah.
so I'll let that be known.
So I think they're missing pieces, but they keep adding the wrong pieces. So they got Enzo Fernandez. They have world-class players. Enzo Fernandez and Christopher Nkunku are one of the world's best players, in my opinion. Now you look at someone like Mudryk, who they spent $100 million for. They took him from Arsenal, and who we were willing to pay $95 million, and they took him from Arsenal last second, and he flops. I don't even think he got a goal this season after signing for them in January. Maybe it's just something with first season, but I just don't see them really. If they want to be smart, they will stop letting all these players go, like these quick 6 players that they got rid of, like Kovacic, Havertz, Mendy, Koulibaly. It's looking like Mason Mount. It's looking like Abs Liqueta might leave too.
Yeah, you and I talked about how, it could be a first-year thing.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Trey Turner come out and was slow this year for the Phillies. Gabriel Jesus, he played really well while he was on the field, but, I think that he could have played a lot better.
He was
and I think
also injured.
Yeah, I think he will play a lot better in his second year with Arsenal and maybe even his third year. So I think that a lot of it could be because it's their first year, but I think that's also a problem that you have so many first-year players on your team.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a chance to build a culture. So with the players they've lost and the players they brought in, I'm gonna agree that they will not finish top 4. Do you think they'll finish in the top half of the table, or do you think that the way their culture is right now, they're gonna fall underneath the top half of the table for the first time in a long time?
I know how Pochettino coaches, and I know that he changes teams. He was able to bring, like I said earlier, a trophyless Tottenham to almost winning the Champions League. And as they also did well in the Premier League to be able to make, top 4.
Yeah.
He's a great manager, definitely up there and, big names for managers. I can definitely see him improving. I do not think they're going to fall under the bottom half. If I had to predict where they are going to fall exactly, I feel like it will be more looking towards Conference League 7th or 8th.
Okay. So, I think that does it with our takes for right now, right?
Yeah.
There is one thing I want to talk to you about, something I kind of just came up with off the top of my head. I'm going to give you would you rather situations.
Okay.
Would you rather see Arsenal win the Premier League or win the FA Cup this season, this upcoming season next year?
The Premier League.
Okay.
That's a no doubt.
Would you rather see them win the Premier League or the Champions League?
See, now that's different because European, Premier League, I'm not, trying to sound cocky, but Arsenal have a lot of Premier League trophies. Maybe not so much, but we have a good amount of Premier League trophies. Now you look at our status with Champions League, and we have none. So I'm going to go with Champions League solely on
The fact that you guys don't have any quite yet.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now another one. Would you rather see the Phillies win the World Series or see the Union win the MLS Cup final?
Wow, that's hard. I have love for the Union, but I need to see the Phillies win a World Series.
All right. Now this one, I don't know exactly what you're going to pick. But I know what mine would be.
Okay.
I just don't know how dedicated you really are to Arsenal when I give you this other proposition.
Okay.
Would you rather Arsenal win the treble, win FA Cup, Champions League,
Wow.
and the Premier League, or see the United States win the World Cup final? I think that's something that is going to be really hard.
Whew. Okay, so I look. Whew. No pressure. Now, Arsenal winning the treble would be monumental. That would be an accomplishment on Mikel Arteta. That would be an accomplishment on all the players. And if you look at it, Matt Turner. But winning the World Cup as the United States, I feel like that's just so much different, and that's so much, I have a connection with Arsenal because that's the team I support, but I'm American. I feel like having that much connection with America, over, I'm not English, we're not English, but I feel like that connection from watching them win the World Cup compared to watching your team win 3 trophies in a season is a lot more, and it's a lot bigger of an accomplishment solely just because of how much no one really likes America.
Yeah.
And
we don't care.
Yeah, we're just the underdogs, and I feel like I would definitely go with USA winning the World Cup.
All right. See, I wasn't sure.
Especially if we're talking about this World Cup.
This upcoming World Cup.
Yeah, which will be hometown for.
Yeah, that's
and
going to be...
Canada and Mexico.
I think...
But
it would be
hometown
extremely
for would
crazy.
Be insane.
Would you cry?
Probably. That's different.
It would be so emotional.
Exactly. Watching USA win the World Cup.
Now,
I'd be 19 at the time. You'd be
22.
22.
Yeah.
24, somewhere like that.
22. Yeah, I would be shit-faced. I would not remember it. So, I brought that up because, over the past 6 years, I'd say, the United States has really been growing their soccer program, not only in the United States, but you see a lot of our players playing internationally in the Premier League, Bundesliga, and even some in the Spanish league. We've just been improving every year. We just won our second consecutive Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And we're having players who could play for the English team or could play for other teams like the Italian team decide to play with the United States. And I think that's really just a testament of how much we're growing as a program. Mm-hmm. Do you see it in the realm of possibility of America getting to, the round of 16, round of 8 with how much bigger the World Cup will be in 2026? And is there even a possibility that you think that we could win the World Cup?
Okay, so I think we would have to secure... It just depends on how our momentum goes, because now... So, I'm going to say I was wrong. It's not the Gold Cup what we won. We won the CONCACAF Nations League. I know. That was my bad. I told you it was the Gold Cup.
Wow, now I'm so sad.
We have the Gold Cup coming up, starting in a couple of days. We play Jamaica.
See, all right, now that really did confuse me.
Yeah.
Because I was watching the Union game the other night, and they said that Andre Blake left for the Gold Cup, and I was like, bro, we just won that. Okay, so we just won our second
CONCACAF Nations League.
Yeah, so still extremely impressive.
Yeah.
What's more impressive, the Gold Cup or the Nations League? I
would say the Gold Cup because there's more variety of teams and there's more teams in it. I think we could definitely win the Gold Cup, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did win the Gold Cup. But what were we talking about again?
Do you think that the United States has any chance?
Okay, yeah. I can definitely see them doing better, but I can't see them winning it, unfortunately. I know it's
Think about the hometown crowd.
But man, it's just such a stretch. I know we have Balogun. I know we have these really good players like Weston McKennie. I know we have these good performances against teams like England, but we couldn't even beat Netherlands.
Yeah, that's a Netherlands team. Well, that's a United States team 4 years in the past at that point that we weren't able to beat.
Yeah,
we'll be 4 years more experienced. Pulisic is one of our older players at this point, it feels like. And he's 24.
Yeah. But now when does that become out of reach and out of their prime?
Well, I feel like with the way we've been building, we're going to be a team that is going to have young players coming up every year. We have a lot of players who are 20 years old. Mm-hmm. So once Pulisic hits 28, his next World Cup, he'll be 32. Say that's his last one. Then our players at that point that are 20 are only going to be 28 and are going to be in the prime of their careers. Mm. And hopefully at that point, we have other players that are 20 that are going to be young, that are going to be 28 when those players are done. So it's just it's a matter of just keeping up with the program, which I feel like in recent memory, we've just been getting better and better at. Mm. And I feel like soccer in the United States as a whole is becoming so much more of an attractive sport to people. Yeah. Another take for you really quick. Within the next 10 years, do you see soccer in the United States being a top 4 sport in the top major sports? Right now, you have the NBA, NFL, MLB, and the NHL. Do you think it's going to be in that top 4 and overcome one of those other leagues?
I can definitely see it overcoming NHL, and I pretty much think that it already has. But I feel like those just traditional American sports, I feel like it just can't happen.
I feel like there's a good chance of it overtaking the MLB, maybe even the NBA, because a lot of people are getting very frustrated with those leagues. And, it's so quick that I fell in love with the sport of soccer after watching a few games, after going to a game, and after seeing, the club Wrexham rise up. It honestly changed my perspective on soccer as a whole. And I feel like there's a lot of kids out there who are going to love the sport and get better and better. And I feel like I feel like America really has a chance to maybe win this one. I know it's a stretch, but having a hometown advantage genuinely makes such a big impact. I don't know what I would do if we won. All I know is hell would break loose.
Yeah.
And they better have that damn parade in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It better be in Philadelphia, and I'll be there.
100%.
And I would be crying and throwing up the entire time, but I'll be happy the entire time. But I genuinely think that the program as a whole, the U.S. men's national team as a whole, is going to get better and better. And I think that we, within the next few years, are going to solidify ourselves as one of the best nations in the world in the sport of soccer. And listen, if we win the World Cup, everyone has to call it soccer.
100%.
100%. It's called soccer.
Because England won a World Cup, but that was...
Dude, that was like, bro, they say bring it home. They say bring it home, and it was like over 100 years ago at this point, it feels like. No, that's not that. That trophy don't belong at home to them. It belongs to Argentina, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
Brazil.
Something like that.
One of them. Stupid ones. America's going to win this one, though. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to talk about today?
Nope. All good.
Jack and I we're working hard trying to find, people to come onto the podcast with us.
We should have more of our next episode should have guests.
Yeah, we're hoping to have our one friend come on, Kevin, next episode, hopefully when he gets back from his trip in Florida. He's going to bring a different knowledge of the game of sports to us.
And maybe someone you can hate instead of me.
Yeah, definitely. He has a lot of hot takes, so hopefully Jack's going to get off the hot seat for once. I play a very neutral role. I take my opinions usually aren't hated as much, but I think that's pretty much it for this episode. We enjoyed filming it. We're excited to bring out more episodes. I think that is really all there is to say.
Yep.
So if you guys enjoyed watching, check out our TikTok. We're going to post a lot of the clips from this episode on there, along with other content. So thank you guys so much for watching.